Welcome everybody to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we're going to be having a look at JASMY. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. Okay, so following up from our previous videos, we're going to go over our bullish scenario here where we're actually looking for this move to be completed. Invalidation of this comes by crossing this 271 level. If we do look to maintain this zone here of this 0.854, which we already came down to, what I am looking for is the potential we could start building a move to the upside here. Now this move to the upside could either be a one-to-one move, which we would be looking for this 0.1272 as a potential target. Alternatively, if this is going to develop into a trending structure to the upside, what we could see is a 5-wave structure up to this 2545. Now, we have a long way to go here. Obviously, the first thing that I'd like to see here is holding support above this low again, and then looking for a break of this X-wave high and this previous high that we have up here. So this is ideally what I want to see here if we're looking for this possibility of this continuation to the upside in this way. So we're going to go over the micro counts now on the lower end of this and what we need to see happen in order for this to play out. So if I come in here and we go over this next bit, effectively what I'm looking for here is two possibilities. So this move to the upside here, potentially we can look at this as a 5-way structure, and then we would be looking at this as a W and X and possibly looking for this Y wave to the downside. Now the one-to-one of this would actually be this 0349, and what we'd be looking for effectively would be a 3-wave structure here, looking for this lower region. Now, a minimum requirement for this Y wave would actually be this 382. Now, if we do see price push down a little bit deeper here, we could actually look to fulfill this requirement without actually moving down into these lower ranges, but we need to just be cautious because we're looking for that possibility of a Y wave. What we could see is we could see something like this as an A, a B, and then we still see this continuation to the downside one more time here. So we need to be on the lookout for this. We could possibly move down into this area here. We have come into the typical support zone that we look for as a B wave already by coming down into this area here of this 380. So if this low holds, potentially we could look for something direct up here, but it is looking very corrective at the moment. So my primary expectation is probably to have a little bit more downside coming here, looking to test out some of these lower levels. Now if we do move down lower here, this 371 to this 367 is going to be a very interesting zone to me as well because of this low that we have in place over here. Now if we do see price come back down into this zone, possibly we could look to swing fail this and then look for that possibility of that continuation to the upside if we are going to look for this C wave to play out. Now the C wave one-to-one based off of coming into this 0.618 would actually be lower down here, so it would be this 560 level would be our C wave potential to the upside. Now if we're looking for that breakout, what we want to see is we want to see this move complete, this corrective structure complete, then we want to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and what we want to hit rather than this one-to-one target here, which would mean that we just have a corrective move up here, is we want to see this 1.618 hit at the 724. Now if we do see a 5-wave move up into this area, effectively what we'd then be looking for here would be that this would be our wave 1, 2, 3, looking for a 4 and then a 5th wave to the upside. So that would be the start of that impulsive move to the upside. So we need to just be patient with this one. We can potentially look to hold this support range here, but I don't think that the move down is quite finished yet. We'll have to see. If we start breaking back above this A wave and a bigger 5-wave structure, then possibly from further back here we could have something like an expanding diagonal in this area where this becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it's not really that neat. They're not very reliable counting diagonals, so I think it's more likely we're going to see this Y wave down if we are looking for this push to the upside. Now if we are looking at this possibility, we need to just be also cautious that there is still potential here that we could see price look to break down. If we are looking at this in a slightly different way here, what we could have is that this could be W, X, Y, X, and we could still be looking for the Z wave. Now, one-to-one of this would be here at this 024, and the 0.618 of this would actually be here towards this 091. So we need to be cautious that if this is actually a corrective move here instead, where instead of just looking at this as one and this is a corrective move, what we're looking for is that this could potentially be ABC here, which could then mean that this move to the downside is actually starting this Z wave. So we need to be on the lookout for that possibility that if we do continue to correct down here, we could look for some of these lower targets to come in. So this is looking at that more bearish scenario here. So if we are actually starting to break to the downside here and we see something along these lines, where we actually just get a 3-wave move to the upside, where this becomes A, we get B, and we get a C wave, and we fail to break out of this channel. What I'm going to be looking for is that possibility that, like I said, that C wave could still come to the downside here, where we get this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, looking for this 219 as a possible target. Now, we could see a short-term rally here, in which case we could look to move up towards the zone of this 571 to this 555, but we need to just be aware that until we actually hit that bullish impulsive trigger, this could just become A, B, and C. Even if we do look to push down here one more time, and then look to push to the upside, I will be very cautious of this idea that we could still see this continuation to the downside because of this more bearish count. And effectively, if we do look to push down past this 273, it invalidates that bullish count to the upside. So this is what we need to be on the lookout for. If we do see a move down here in 3 waves like this, where this becomes A, B, and C, then what we'd be looking for is that possibility of another 3-wave move up before that continuation down towards this 0.618 level. So this is going to be the longer term thing we're looking for here. We do have short-term potential bullishness if we can manage to hold those support zones, but if we fail to do that, we need to be careful of the ideas of a break to the downside. Now, there are other ways of looking at this move, and that would be looking at this as a 5-wave move from this high over here effectively. Now, what we'd be looking for here is that this could be potentially 1, 2 here. Now, we could have this as 1, 2, 1, 2, which would be very bearish because this would mean that we'd have to have additional 4ths and 5ths to the downside. So as long as we stay below this 837, we can potentially look to build this count. So the way that we'd be looking at this would be in this way, where we'd have to say this is 1, 2, this is another 1, 2 here, and effectively what we're looking for is the possibility of a move down towards this 219. So if we just drop directly here, where this becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we see a move down towards this 219, I would then be looking at this more bearish count being the primary count, where we'd be looking for additional 4ths and 5ths to the downside, which could look to push us all the way down here towards this 0.179 to this 0.156. So if we do look to push down in this way, effectively what this would then do is push us into that zone where we would be looking to cross this 1.618 of this first move. Now, it is possible this could look to extend out towards this 2.618, which would be this 0.0136. Now, if we do see a move down into this white target box here where we get good structure, I would then have to look for an additional 4th and a 5th, which could look to push us down here into the zone of this 108 to this 074. So we need to just be on the lookout. There is potential here that we could continue to build 5-wave moves to the downside, and if these start to extend, these can quite easily hit those target levels. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. Now, in the really short term here, what I'm looking at is that if we maintain below this 480, this would align with the idea of seeing that continuation to the downside. So this is going to be our invalidation. If we want to look for that bullish count, we really need to get back above this level. Otherwise, we could have this as a diagonal pattern here. This is a wave 2, and we could be building 1s and 2s here. 1, 2, 1, 2. Then we see 3, 4, 5, and then we start to push down towards some of these lower levels here. Now, the key thing is here, if we are looking at this possibility of a break to the downside in this way, we'd have to move down past this 00302 as for more confirmation that this was actually taking place, where this would become 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'd be looking for this 5th wave over here. So this is why we need to be careful. You know, if we fail to push back up here in the bullish count, then we can look for this direct push to the downside. Now, the way that I'm looking at this currently, I think it's more likely we're going to see this push up first, but we'll have to see here whether we can manage to get back above these highs. Okay, so coming in here and looking at the daily CPR, what we can see is that we are currently battling with these central lines, which are currently sitting towards this 401 and this 395. We have hit the S1 target. We haven't touched anything on the downside targets. If we do continue to reject from these levels, downside targets for today could potentially be this 385. We have this 377. We have this 364, and we have this 356 as potential downside targets for today if we start to lose these central lines. Now, price can always move through these levels, so we need to be aware of that, but these are potential pivot points if price moves into them. Now, if we do look to push back to the upside, I will be on the lookout for the possibility of resistance coming in at this 406 again. If we do manage to clear this level, upside targets for today would be this 419. We have this 427, and we also have this higher level here of this 439. Now, if we throw this over onto the weekly, because we have new weekly lines which have been printed, we can see that we're currently below these. So this is not really a good sign. Ideally, for that bullish count, I want to see price get back above this 414. If we continue to reject off of this level, we could see that continuation to the downside. Downside targets would be 372, 353, and this lower one here of this 319. So this would align with actually having a break to the downside here, possibly looking for this as an additional B wave. This 353 could be quite interesting because, like I said, it comes into some of these levels that we were looking at earlier. Now, if we do, however, manage to reverse and get back above these lines, then targets for this week could be this 426, and we have this 460, and this higher level here of this 480 as potential targets for this week. Now, throwing the monthly CPR lines on here again, we can see that we are currently below these central lines. Now, these are very tightly spread, which is indicating volatility. So it doesn't say which way this volatility is going to be, but what we could see is that if we do move back up here, we could find resistance at this 413 to this 417 area. If we fail to break back above this area, what we could then be doing is setting up for that possibility of a break to the downside. Monthly targets to the downside would be this 320 level. We have this 221, and then lower down here we have this 125. So these would align with that idea of that direct break to the downside. So we need to be careful of that. If we do see price, however, manage to flip these back into support, possibly what we could see is price come back into this 513, which would be a very interesting area because it would be looking to target out this high over here. And then higher up here we have this 610 and this 707 as possible targets. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video, and leave us some feedback down below. Also in the description, you will find a link to the Discord. Come check it out. It is free to join. Everyone, have a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.